code 815 on a Bobcat 5600 panel reads, word for word, engine coolant temperature shutdown level. That's the machine telling you it has already made a decision. You're just being informed. 5 codes show up on the factory table, and only 3 of them mean the engine is actually hot. The other 2 mean the panel doesn't trust the sensor at all. Confuse them and you buy the wrong part. So here there, straight from the table, no interpretation. 810, engine coolant temperature high. 811, engine coolant temperature extremely high. 815, engine coolant temperature shutdown level. 821, engine coolant temperature out of range high. 822, engine coolant temperature out of range low. That's the whole 8 family in that table. If yours isn't one of these 5, look it up, don't guess. Start with 810. Engine coolant temperature high. Nothing has failed yet. Something is falling behind. Heat isn't a mystery. The engine makes it, coolant carries it, air across the cooler takes it away. 810 means that chain is losing ground. Not broken, just slower than the work you're asking for. Which is why it usually shows up on the hottest hour of the hottest day, in the deepest pile. Now the part that saves you money, the causes ranked cheapest first. Almost nobody works in this order. Cheapest fix, and the most common one by far. The cooler core is packed solid with dust and chaff. It's the lint screen you haven't pulled in months. The dryer still tumbles. The clothes just never dry. Blow it out from the fan side, backwards through the fins, so the debris leaves the way it came in. Next cheapest, coolant level low. Check it cold at the reservoir, not by cracking a hot radiator cap. A hot system is pressurized. Opening it hot is how people end up in an emergency room. Then the cap itself. It holds pressure so coolant can run hot without boiling. A tired one lets it flash. It's a 5-minute part, and it's the one people skip because it doesn't look like it does anything. Now airflow. Fan drive slipping, belt glazed, shroud cracked, air goes around the core instead of through it. Stand behind the machine at full throttle. You should feel real air moving, not a suggestion. Further up the ladder, a thermostat stuck partly closed. It opens just late and never all the way. Worst case on 810 is a water pump losing its impeller or passages plugged internally with old scale. Here's the isolation that separates a mechanic from a part swapper. Watch when the temperature climbs. Debris and airflow problems get worse under load and ease off at idle. A thermostat doesn't care about load. And a coolant loss problem climbs, drops when you top it off, then climbs again a day later. If that just gave you a way to sort 4 repairs by cost before touching a wrench, that's what this channel does. Now 811, the table says engine coolant temperature extremely high, same sensor, same circuit, worse number. This isn't a different fault. It's the same fault you ignored at 810, further down the same road. The difference matters because at this level damage stops being theoretical. Aluminum doesn't forget being cooked. So your response changes. On 810 you finish the pass, on 811 you stop working the machine. Don't kill it instantly if you can help it. Drop the load, let it idle, keep coolant moving. A hot engine shut off at once has no flow and no fan. The heat just sits in the head. Then work the cheap stuff in the same order. Core, level, cap, airflow, thermostat, pump. But if 811 arrived with no warning, in cool weather on a clean core, think about combustion gases in the coolant. A failing head gasket pushes exhaust into the jacket. The reservoir burps, level drops, and nothing looks wrong outside. That's the one where the block test before you spend a whole day chasing airflow that was fine all along. Then 815. Engine coolant temperature shutdown level. The panel isn't asking your opinion anymore. The manual names this one a level for a reason. It's the point where continuing costs more than stopping. The exact temperature that triggers each of these codes is in the service manual. Use that number, not a guess. If you see 815, the real diagnosis starts after cool down, not during. Nothing you measure hot is trustworthy. Wait until it's genuinely cold. A reading on a hot engine tells you about right now, not about why. Then check level first, because overheating hard pushes coolant out, which hides how much you started with. Top it, purge the air, and run it. Air pockets alone can produce a shutdown level reading on a healthy engine. That's the trap. The sensor sits in coolant. If there's a bubble against it, it reads what the bubble feels. Which is why every refill after a repair gets burped properly. Skip that, and you're back at 815 tomorrow. And here's where it flips. Everything so far assumed one thing, that the sensor was telling the truth. 3 codes for real heat, 2 codes for a sensor the panel stopped believing. They behave nothing alike. 821, engine coolant temperature out of range high. 822, out of range low. Read that word again, range. Out of range doesn't mean too hot. It means the signal is outside anything a working sensor can produce. Step on a bathroom scale and watch it sit at 0 while you're standing on it. You didn't lose weight. That's an out-of-range reading. The number is impossible, so the controller flags the circuit, not the engine, which changes your whole approach. You're not chasing heat now, you're chasing copper, connectors, and corrosion. For 821, out of range high, start at the connector on the sensor itself, unplug it, and actually look. Green crust, a spread pin, a seal turned to jelly. That's your fault far more often than the sensor is. Then the harness. Follow it where it flexes, where it passes near heat, where a zip tie has sawed into it. Wire failures hide at movement and heat. Straight runs down the middle of a frame, rail, almost never fail. Cheapest first again, clean and reseat the connector, then repair chafed wire, then replace the sensor. Replacing the sensor first is the expensive habit, because a new sensor into a bad connector reads exactly the same. Now 822, engine coolant temperature out of range low. This one has a signature that gives it away. It shows up cold. First thing in the morning, on a machine that has never run hot in its life, and often the day after somebody had the panel apart, swapped a sensor, or pressure washed the engine bay. Because a disconnected sensor and a shorted one both send a value no real coolant temperature could make. So the check is physical before it's electrical. Is it plugged in, all the way, latched, not just resting? Then look for water. A pressure washer pushes moisture into connectors that were never built to be blasted. Dry it, pack it with dielectric grease, and run it. Half of these faults never come back. The tell for both range codes, they come and go with no relation to temperature. Cold start, fault. Hot day, nothing. That intermittency is the diagnosis. Heat faults track heat. Circuit faults track movement, moisture, and vibration. It's a log when the code sets. A note on your phone with the time beats a whole afternoon of guessing. One more thing that trips people up, those 8 codes don't sit alone in that panel display. The table also lists 722, hydraulic oil temperature out of range, low, different system, different sensor entirely, and 49, engine oil pressure low, plus 414, extremely low, and 415, oil pressure shutdown level. If an 8 code shows up beside an oil pressure code, the oil pressure code gets your attention first. There's also 39, battery voltage low. Weak system voltage can make perfectly good sensors report nonsense. Fix the power before you chase the signal. That order alone saves people a sensor they never needed. So, 810, 811, and 815 are heat, escalating. 821 and 822 are the circuit, not the engine. Heat codes track load and time. Range codes track connectors. That one split tells you which toolbox to open. The exact trigger temperatures and test procedures are in the service manual link below. That's the authority. Like this, if it saved you a guess, and subscribe for daily diagnostics. Next, the 50x pedal and wheel speed codes.